A girl, 11 years old, leaves school and never returns. 45 years the police needed to uncover the truth. But what they found was more brutal than anyone expected. Linda O'Keefe, 11 years old. She didn't take her bike that day. A neighbor drove her to summer school. 1:30 in the afternoon, classes ended. She called her mother, asking to be picked up. But her mother refused. She was busy, said the distance was short. Linda cried after the call. The school secretary saw her upset, thought about giving her a ride, but she was heading in another direction. Linda left. She sat in front of the building for a few moments. Then she started walking. Only half an hour separated her from home. She never arrived. The mother thought her daughter met up with friends, but by evening, worry set in. She called everyone she knew. No one had seen her. The father came home from work. They went out in 2 cars, searching every street, and with nightfall, they made the decision. The police dogs, helicopters, rescue teams throughout the night. Nothing. The next day, additional teams. The newspapers talked about a mysterious disappearance of a child. 10:30 in the morning. A man riding his bike in a park 9 kilometers away with his son and his friend. They approached a water ditch to watch frogs. They saw something light-colored among the grass. The man approached. He froze. The body of a child partially submerged in water. He had read about Linda's disappearance in the newspapers that morning. He knew it was her. They rushed to the nearest phone. On the way, they encountered a police officer participating in the search. He headed there with them immediately. The investigators arrived. The body belonged to Linda O'Keefe. Same clothes, her bag beside her. But her shoe wasn't there, and it was never found. The police examined the location. Tire tracks near the body, nothing else. The forensic report? Strangulation? Death occurred between 11 at night and 2 in the morning. Linda was abducted after leaving school and held for 12 hours before being killed. The examination proved she was assaulted. DNA evidence was found. It was preserved in the lab years before DNA analysis techniques were known. The search for witnesses began. Her classmates, school staff, street residents. After days, the first real lead appeared. One of her classmates saw Linda walking on the road, a blue van moving slowly beside her. Then she disappeared from view. Another witness and her mother. We saw Linda talking to the van driver. It was 1:15 in the afternoon. The passenger door was open. Moments later, she got into the car. The van left. They assumed the driver was one of her relatives. The driver was described: white male, 24 to 30 years old, blonde curly hair, long face, no license plate number, no specific car model, a general search bulletin throughout California, no use. The 2 witnesses were called in multiple times. They agreed to a hypnosis session. What they remembered was limited. Not enough to identify the killer, a woman living near where the body was found. I heard screaming at 10:30 in the evening, "Stop! Don't hurt me!" Then silence. The timing matched the time of death. Investigators believed the scream was Linda's. The next morning, an artist painting in the same park. He noticed something strange. A young man watching from among the bushes. He approached him. "What's going on?" The police found the girl's body. But how did he know? They were far from the location, impossible to see anything from that distance. The artist described the young man. Thin, white, 18 to 24 years old, 6 feet tall, blonde hair, and long sideburns. The description matched the van driver. The police concluded this young man might be the killer. He returned to follow what was happening, but finding him in a crowded city? Nearly impossible. 2 days later, something unexpected happened. An 18-year-old entered the police station. "I'm the killer." His name was Peter Wooten. He lived near the O'Keefe family. He studied with Linda's older sister. The news spread like lightning. The police interrogated him for 7 straight hours. They searched his house completely. They officially announced charging him with murder. Just 3 days. And the story turned around again. Complete exoneration. His confession was full of contradictions. The details were taken from newspapers, and the rest was wrong information. The 2 witnesses confirmed, "That's not him. We know him personally from the neighborhood. Peter suffered from a mental disorder. He just wanted attention. No real leads." The search for the blue van and its driver continued. School students participated on bikes despite police warnings. The first month, 175 people were interrogated. Every meter of the road was searched. Nothing. The police published a sketch of the driver. No one recognized him. Between fear of the killer's escape and despair from the absence of evidence, hope began to weaken. After 2 months, a new development. Another girl was assaulted in the same area. An unknown man dragged her into a van, took her to a deserted place, then released her. Investigators thought the same perpetrator returned. But the details didn't match. His car was white, and his features were different. After investigation, a truck driver in his 30s was later convicted. But he had no connection to Linda's murder. Months passed. The case slowly faded. No new evidence, no trace of the blue van, no name leading to the truth. But it was never closed. In 2001, after 28 years, the police sent DNA samples to a modern lab. They succeeded in extracting the killer's genetic fingerprint, but it wasn't registered in the FBI database. Either he wasn't convicted of any other crime or his crimes occurred before the DNA collection system was implemented. Experts tried matching the DNA with possible relatives. No result. The techniques were very limited, until 2018 came. Newport Beach police decided to reopen the file. They contacted Parabon Nanolabs. They were able to create an approximate digital image of the killer from the same DNA he left 45 years ago. The technique is known as DNA phenotyping, determining facial features, eye color, hair, skin, from DNA alone. Experts prepared 2 images, one of what the killer looked like at 20 years old, and another at 60. The result was very close to the witness's description in 1973. But investigators chose a method no one had tried before. July 6, 2018, the 45th anniversary of the crime, Newport Beach police posted on Twitter a series of 68 tweets, but this time in Linda's own voice. Tweets told in the child's words, describing her last day moment by moment. From going to school to calling her mother to the road home she never reached the end of. Every line was written carefully by investigators to redraw the day of her disappearance exactly as it happened. And at the end of the series, a tweet carrying 2 images of the killer and a message. Now, after 45 years, I can speak again. There's something important I need to tell you. The killer's face finally appeared, thanks to the DNA he left behind. This technique didn't exist in 1973, but today it's capable of changing everything. The approach was unprecedented. It caused a global sensation. Never before had a crime victim told her story through social media this way. More than 7 million people viewed those tweets. Hundreds of messages and information poured in from around the world. Investigators spent months examining the reports. No suitable suspect. But they didn't stop. They returned to Parabon Lab with a new request, identifying the killer's relatives through DNA. What wasn't possible at the beginning of the millennium became possible now, August 2018. The threads finally began to clear. 6 months of intensive work. Through private genetic databases, they identified the killer's 3rd cousin. Only one step toward the solution. The process of tracing the family tree began. And with deeper research, the big surprise, the killer's own DNA was found inside a private database. He had uploaded it himself voluntarily, Through a website where people search for their family origins, one of his relatives gave him a genetic analysis kit as a gift, so he tried it out of curiosity. And so, after 45 years of the crime, the police finally had a name. James Allen Neal. He was 72 years old, living in another state. January 2019, investigators began secretly monitoring him. But before his arrest, they needed an official sample of his DNA to confirm the match legally. Results from private databases don't count as legal evidence. January 29th. Surveillance began. Investigators arranged with the garbage collection company to deliver anything Neal threw away. The first tests failed. After 3 days, they watched him smoke in his car. He threw the cigarette butt and left. Investigators quickly picked it up and sent it to the lab. The result was conclusive. Complete match. The DNA on the cigarette butt was the same as that found on Linda's body. After half a century of mystery, the truth was confirmed. The killer was James Neal. After days, the police held a press conference. Official arrest. James Allen Neal, 72 years old. A long criminal history. Since his youth, he was known for violent behavior and criminal tendencies. Thefts, repeated break-ins, more than 12 criminal records, but the punishments were always light. Only for him to return to crime. At 25, he married. He settled in the Los Angeles suburbs, half an hour from Linda's house. Just 2 years later, he committed his crime. His wife was pregnant, and he himself was under probation. Later, he was convicted of financial crimes, check theft, and forgery, short periods in prison, then repeated arrests for minor violations. He separated from his first wife and moved between several states. He settled in Colorado and remarried in 1997. But what investigators uncovered was far more horrific. He's suspected of involvement in dozens of assaults on children over decades and was never held accountable for any of them. In 1995, he kidnapped a girl the same way. He approaches in his car, kidnaps the victim, assaults her, then releases her. In 2004, another girl, the same method. In 2010, a harassment report that continued for several months. He partially confessed. The case was suddenly closed after the victim withdrew. Neal remained free as he always was, until his arrest in 2019 on charges of murdering Linda. His name hadn't disappeared from suspicions, but he was always outside the grip of justice. When interrogated, he denied everything. I didn't kidnap any girl. I didn't see Linda before. Then he added coldly, "She looks like one of my daughters." But the DNA found on her body was decisive. Conviction was certain. Investigators continued gathering evidence. They searched for proof he owned a blue van. They found nothing. Then they discovered. In the year of the crime, he worked in a residential complex, using the service truck belonging to the place. The same van witnesses saw. When searching his house, hard drives, phones, illegal materials, and research files about criminals caught through DNA. He knew perfectly well that DNA was what would lead him to his end. February 2020, trial date. It was postponed due to the pandemic. Neal remained insistent on his innocence, while the police no longer had the slightest doubt about his guilt. But justice wasn't complete. May 2020. He was transferred to the hospital after his health deteriorated. He died 2 days later from lung cancer. He didn't know about his illness before his arrest, and when it was discovered, it was too late for treatment. And so, one of the longest murder cases in California history ended, a case that lasted half a century of searching, until justice finally managed to uncover the killer, even if it never tried him. Investigators believe Neal may have left behind other victims. The investigation is still ongoing. As for Linda's parents, they died years before knowing the truth. The mother carried the guilt of refusing to pick up her daughter from school until the last day of her life. The two sisters expressed their gratitude to the investigators who never gave up on the case. Their only regret, that their parent didn't witness the moment justice finally came. This was the story of Linda O'Keefe,